in 1 minute. Okay, good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I just wanted to note that tonight's meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Quorum for tonight's special meeting is 2.5% of the membership, and we have a total of 405 members, so quorum is 11. And so far, last I checked, there were over 19 members who have joined. So we have met the quorum threshold. I'll call to order Pride Toronto's 2022 special general meeting. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to elect new board members. And so my name is Grant Gonzalez. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the co-chair of the board. I will be chairing tonight's special general meeting. And on behalf of the board of directors, Dixon, Samantha, Yuri, Jad, Leslie, Tika, Maha, and myself, we welcome you to tonight's meeting. Before we begin the formal agenda, I'd just like to highlight the accessibility features that are available. ASL interpretation is being provided, and I'll go over some more information on the next slide. Transcription, captioning via live transcription is available. If you have any accessibility requests, please submit them through the Q&A function for myself and or our staff to address. The presentation of motions, all motions are included in the presentation for the exact wording. Any changes will be made directly to the presentation prior to voting to ensure we are all on the same page and aligned on any wording of motions. ASL etiquette. So we have ASL interpreters secured for this meeting. If you require this service, please look for the interpreters who are spotlighted. You may pin the interpreters to your screen at any time by bringing your computer mouse to the interpreter's Zoom box and select pin. If you are speaking, please remember the following: speak clearly and avoid speaking fast to assist the interpreters in translating efficiently. One person to speak at a time. Interpreters are neutral and abide by the code of conduct. And please speak directly to deaf or hard of hearing individuals, not the interpreter.
Grant, can I interrupt for a moment and ask that you put your presentation actual presentation mode if possible, please?
Sure. Is it not on presentation mode?
It's on presenter mode, so we can see the next slides that are coming.
Oh, I see. 1 second.
Thank you.
I'll share. Don't know if that fixes the issue.
Much better. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Harm reduction resources are available at pridetoronto.com/harm reduction. If you or someone else you are with is having an emotional response to the content or tone of this meeting, please visit the website. If you are unable to navigate the link, please send an email to harmreduction@pridetoronto.com. Staff are in attendance and will be posting harm reduction messages and monitoring the harm reduction email. I'd like to now pass it over to Yuri Hernandez, co-chair of the board, to deliver the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Today, we acknowledge that we are on traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. And it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We also acknowledge all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly forcibly displanted Africans who were brought here as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuri. I would now like to pass it over to Leslie to walk through our community guidelines and other shared meeting principles. Over to you, Leslie.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here this evening, and a special thank you to the 4 candidates who have been patiently waiting. We are asking, please, that there be no hate speech or acts of oppression. This includes, but is not limited to, racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, ageism, autism, or any other form of bigotry. We ask that there be no selling or promoting of goods and services. And there's a gentle reminder that anyone going against the community guidelines may be removed from the space. We ask that you have fun and be kind to each other. And in terms of our shared principles, self-care is essential. So if at any point you need to step away or take a break, please do so. Please try and be respectful, courteous, and kind to open mind. And we ask that you be as concise as possible and let everyone have a chance to participate. We ask that you please try and stay on topic. We encourage tough questions, criticism, and remarks, but we ask, please, that there's no rudeness or harassment, especially no personal attacks.
Thank you so much, Leslie. In terms of cam and mic function and the chat function, when a member is recognized to speak, they will have the option to turn on their cameras when asking a question or raising a procedural point. The general chat is available for members to communicate with each other. And while Community Guide will also provide resources such as general reminders, hyperlink to the agenda, reminders of accessibility features, etc. in this chat. In the Q&A box chat, members can type in their questions through the Q&A box chat. Questions that are relevant to the individual will receive a written response from a board or staff member, and questions that are relevant to all in attendance will be answered by the chair. So for example, if you have a question of the candidates, but you don't want to speak to it, feel free to submit that into Q&A box, and I will pull that out to ask the candidates. Members can also raise procedural points, queries, such as points of order, points of clarification, points of privilege in the Q&A box chat, and they will be flagged to myself as chair accordingly. So we will be guided by Robert's Rules of Order to move and second motions. Please use the raise hand function, or we will choose the first 2 people. Motions from the floor are out of order. Proposals to amend motions require a seconder and majority support unless there is unanimous consent. And raise, you can raise Zoom because that Zoom alone does not have that capability. I will pass it over to Amanda from Get Quorum to speak to any other highlights that we should be aware of. Over to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a few points that I want to bring up. If you are having any trouble with the stream, you can open the meeting directly in Zoom by clicking on the Open in Zoom link at the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen. If you cannot see it, you can exit full screen and you will see the link. Also, if you are hearing any echo and you have more than one browser open, please close double browsers, or you can mute them by right-clicking in the tab. Attendees can turn on captions in this webinar. Please let us know if you're having any issues with that function. Just a reminder, you will need to revoke your proxy if you wish to vote live during this meeting. After I have finished this orientation, we will close the proxy revocation, so you will not be able to revoke your proxy after this, and you will not be able to vote live. If you did not meeting, and click on the Go to My Meeting portal link to cast your votes. Panelists will be accessing votes through the Zoom portal, so they will go to the email and click on the blue Go to My Meeting portal link. The questions will appear automatically when it's time to vote. You will see you have 2 minutes to complete your vote. If you're having any issues, please send a message in the Q&A and we will send you technical support from the Q&A box. Once you have cast your selection, you choose the next button to submit your vote. And that's all from Get Quorum. If you do have any technical support questions, please again just use the Q&A box.
Thank you, Amanda. And of course, if there are any issues with voting that folks raise, although we have 2 minutes allotted for each vote, we will of course make extended time to ensure all members who wish to vote can vote. So share my screen again, make sure it's the right one. Okay. Already went through voting, but as you can see in mock example here, the vote tab should show up below the gallery view, where we would then bring up this vote tab, similar to the last general meeting. All right, so we have 2 motions to vote on now. We'll have 3 motions in total as the next items. The first one is to appoint Farida Macaulay and Primo Allen as note takers for the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022. Any discussion on this? I'm gonna have to exit or stop sharing to see if there's any questions. Not seeing any. Can we get a mover and a seconder? Raised hands, please. Glenn Knight moves.
Hold, please. There's a question in the Q&A. Can we see, is it possible to see the speaker and the ASL interpret at the same time?
So unfortunately on YouTube, it doesn't allow us to show the shared screen as well as 2 spotlighted people. So for convenience, we have the ASL interpreter and the shared screen.
Thank you.
Nicole DeCruz seconds. So we can proceed now to a vote, Amanda.
Okay, thank you. Just give me.
Sorry, Grant, what was the seconder's name?
Nicole DeCruz.
Thank you.
No problem. So just getting it set up.
Okay, I've now launched that vote to start for the approval of the motion to appoint the note takers for this meeting. There is 2 minutes on the voting cast. If you have any issues, please use the Q&A and I will help you directly. Votes are coming in quickly. Thank you, everyone.
While we're voting, I just want to flag, we will be sharing the relations for percentages, just so folks can see vote as it's shown, because I think the mistake last time was just it was read out of order or not in order. So we will be able to see it through the main portal, and that will be shared with us.
Okay, I'm just going to extend the voting for 1 minute. I'm just trying to provide some support to somebody who's having an issue.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Amanda?
So I'm just going to extend the voting. There's one person who's having some issues, so I'm just trying to provide them with some support. So
Okay,
I'm going
no
to
problem.
extend the vote for just another minute.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, I'm able to share results now.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion to appoint the note takers. The vote was yes, 38 for yes, 5 for no.
What's below no, the 4?
I choose
I
not to
choose not
vote.
to.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the proxy, okay, I see. So with 38 in favor, 5 opposed, motion passes. The next motion, I will share my screen again, is to appoint Get Quorum as the scrutineers for all voting results at the 2022 special general meeting held on 26/2022. So there's the second motion, and I'll ask that Get Quorum set up the next vote.
Did you want to ask for a mover and a seconder?
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Duncan Brew moves, Ian Royer seconds.
Okay, we are now going to launch that vote and put 2 minutes on the clock. So please go ahead and vote to approve the motion to appoint Get Quorum as scrutineers. Again, if you're having any issues with voting, please contact Get Quorum through the Q&A box. There's 1 minute left for votes. Just under 30 seconds now. Thank you everyone for your patience. Okay, that vote has now closed. Going to share my screen for the results. Okay, so a motion to appoint Get Quorum as scrutineers, 37 for yes, 8 for no.
Thank you, Amanda. With 37 in favor, 8 opposed, the motion passes. The final housekeeping motion is the agenda, to approve the agenda for the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022. Quickly share my screen so folks can see the wording. This should also be, it will be copied and pasted into the chat as well.
There is a point of order.
Sure. I'm just gonna get out of the shared screen here. 1 second. And a point of order from Tom. Go ahead, Tom. Tom Booker.
I'm just going to give him access.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, greetings everyone. And I see in the chat people want to move to the elections. I appreciate that, but I do want to get this point of order on record. And I'm going to ask you, Grant, for a ruling because I'm looking at section 901 of the Pride Toronto bylaw. And this outlines the mandatory business that must be transacted at the annual meeting. It lists certain items in order from A to H. Now, section E states that at the annual meeting, there shall be the reappointment or new appointment of the auditor. After that, in section F, it indicates there shall be the election of directors. So in this case, we're switching these steps. Instead of reappointing or appointing a new auditor, we're skipping this and going to board elections. This is happening all while Pride Toronto faces allegations of fraud and forgery against Indigenous artists and communities. And these allegations have gone unanswered. Now, there's good reason that the appointment of an auditor would come before the election of directors. Before we proceed to election of directors, we need to ensure that the financial house is in order. Potential candidates have the right to know what risks the organization faces before they join it. So we need to make sure that the new directors are protected. So I'm asking you as the chair to adjourn the election of directors until after the auditor has been appointed in accordance with the bylaws. Thank you.
So there is a motion to adjourn this meeting.
It's a point of order asking you to rule, actually.
Well, so when there is an adjournment motion, there's usually not a debate, but
I didn't make it.
I
It was
will-
part of
okay.
my articulation, Grant.
No,
I'm asking for a ruling.
That's fine. That's fine. I will rule. This is not an annual general meeting. The annual general meeting was held in January. This is a special general meeting. Special general meeting may include elections for which notice was provided to members. This is not an annual meeting, so it does not need to include the other items you have listed, including the appointment of an auditor. There is no auditor proposed right now. We can speak to that later if you like. And I think it's fair to say, not officially, but informally, that there is a commitment back to the membership to have a specific discussion on appointment and reappointment of an auditor at a special general meeting. So that I can put on record. But in terms of the bylaws, this is not an annual meeting, so we're not required as part of the bylaws to include that in the agenda. I would also suggest that other members would not have had an opportunity to know that we had any discussion, or we would have a discussion on an auditor, or the topic of appointing an auditor. So there may be members who are not in attendance today that would have liked to be in attendance had they known that was on the agenda. So I can say now there's a commitment from the organization to hold a special meeting to have a specific discussion on the auditor.
So I just want to be clear, to clarify my point of order, that 901A states that the business transacted at the annual meeting shall include, and then it lists the business at the annual meeting. And
I understand.
It provides an order for that. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you, Grant. I'll stop.
Thank you. I provided a ruling. This is not the annual general meeting. The annual general meeting was held in January 2022. This is a special meeting in which other topics may be discussed, including some that are listed under the required business for an annual meeting. But as I said, we will bring the topic of the auditor forward to another special general meeting where members can have a discussion specifically on this topic. Thank you. We can return back to the approval of the agenda for the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022. And I can ask that get quorum. Oh, sorry, I need a mover and a seconder for that. So I see that Ian moves and Glenn seconds. Sorry, I didn't read that in order. Gary, did you move? And Ian seconds?
I think Gary's hand up was for something else.
Okay, I can pass it over to Gary if it was not for that. Okay, so that Ian and
sorry, Gary does have his hand up. Did you want?
Right, I'll pass it over to you, Gary.
Go ahead, Gary. We're not able to hear you. If you could please join computer or join audio by computer. There we go. We're able to see you. We're just not able to hear you.
Cannot hear you, Gary.
Sorry, you might have to click on the join via Zoom. Sorry, Gary, we're not hearing you. You're not unmuted. You're not connected.
Gary, we cannot hear you. I think he can hear us either.
I'm not sure.
I am not hearing Gary. Sorry. Can I have someone liaise directly with Carrie to perhaps have the text motion included in the Q&A box? Or sorry, the point that Gary wishes to raise, because we cannot hear Gary. Meantime, we can't hear you, Gary. So I'm going to ask. So it seems like Gary is having some audio issues. We cannot hear him. So I see that Lisa Amin has your hand raised. Can I pass that over to Lisa while we're figuring out what's going on with Gary's audio? To you, Lisa.
Lisa, I seconded the motion.
Sorry?
Lisa said that she is seconding the motion. She raised
Okay.
her hand to second the motion.
Perfect, thank you.
So can people hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I mean, I think I'm here double, but I think I've got the volume reduced on the other one, so there shouldn't be feedback, is my understanding. It's actually like a complicated system when you have to actually be double booked in a certain sense. Anyway, I just wanted to say, and I thought that because the translator was translating me, that it was actually working, but I guess it wasn't. I wanted to speak against the ruling of the chair, because in my view, if we're trying to build Pride Toronto as a community-based organization, the issue of the membership not deciding to approve the board-approved auditor is actually a really important one. And before new board of directors should be elected, this issue should actually be resolved. And this is also to defend the new board of directors. I know that they've been waiting a long time. I think that's really unfortunate, but I also think that this issue must be addressed and the questions must be answered about what has gone on in Pride Toronto that has led the membership to not support the auditor that the board wanted us to approve. And obviously this is based on a whole bunch of questions that people asked at the last SGM that people were not satisfied with the answers, both from the auditor and from other people in Pride Toronto. I will leave it there. I'm not trying to take up time.
Thank you, Gary. And as I spoke earlier, although there's no procedural point raised, we will have a separate special general meeting where we will address the topic of the auditor. So with that, we have a mover and a seconder for the motion to approve the agenda, and I would ask that Get Quorum launch the vote.
This is the vote to approve the agenda, correct?
Yes, to approve the agenda for the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022.
Okay, I've now launched that vote. If everyone could please go ahead and cast their decision. Just a reminder, if you're having technical difficulties with the voting, please contact me in the Q&A box for direct support. So if you're having difficulties, you can go to the email that you joined with to click on the Go to My Meeting portal link in order to access the voting. Okay, just about 30 seconds left.
There's a Q&A voting question.
Thank you. If you're streaming on Zoom, you just have to exit full screen. If you're on a mobile device, you just click on your home button to open up your emails to get to a browser in order to open the voting portal. If you like, I can also send you a link. Okay, that vote is now closed. Okay, I'm now going to share my screen to show results. Okay, so the motion to approve the agenda, 38 voted yes and 14 no.
8 in favor, 14 opposed. The motion carries.
Sorry, just for the sign language interpreting team, can we spotlight the interpreter? Okay, it looks like they're spotlight now. Thank you.
Just going to share my screen again. So just wanted to go through some high-level details on the board recruitment process. There was an open call for applications and community outreach about all the vacant positions in October. We also hosted an About the Board Q&A session in October for any potential candidates who are interested in submitting their name. Board conducted interviews and the selection process in late October, early November, where we interviewed 7 candidates and are recommending 4 for election to the board. We also hosted a Meet the Candidates Q&A session. About 30 or 40 members attended on January 20th, where members had the opportunity to ask the board candidates questions. In terms of the voting method, there are 4 candidates running for 4 positions. They are the board's recommended slate. So the vote will proceed in 1 or 2 steps. Step 1, members will be asked to vote on a motion to support the board's recommended slate as a whole. If that motion fails, the vote will then proceed to a yes, no, abstain vote for each candidate individually, and winning candidates must receive a 50% plus 1 vote, and abstentions are not counted as part of the total vote percentage. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor over to the candidates to deliver remarks for about up to 2 minutes. We'll have a Q&A session. Members ask their question in 1 minute and candidates to respond in 1 minute. Again, all the background information for candidates are available on the member resources page, and I'll just ask that staff reshare the link so folks can read their bios, the responses to the application questions, and we also made a link available to the Q&A session, which was recorded. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor over to, yes?
Cheryl Cohen has her hand up.
Okay. I'll pass it over to Cheryl.
Cheryl, can you go ahead and unmute? So she's not unmuting. I'm not sure if she has a question or not.
Don't see Cheryl unmuting. So Cheryl,
She
either.
says she doesn't have a question. Thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, okay, thank you. If you can lower your hand, that would be great. Thank you. And I'll pass it over for remarks first to Courage.
All right, it's Interpreter Dean speaking. A message from Courage is saying it's impossible to understand without interpreters in the chat. Can she see the interpreter? Okay.
Yep, we're good. Hello, everybody, and good evening to all. My name is Courage, and this is my sign name. And the reason why I want to join the board is that I want to be the one that brings more light to the IBPOC and LGBTQ community and to the deaf community to Pride Toronto. I want to bring more collaboration and partnership between them. And I know that in UK Pride, which I have attended before, they are famous for the accessibility features that they have and the amount they've invested in the deaf and disabled communities to provide access for such things as performances, shows, and all meetings. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. Enjoy your day and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Courage. I'll pass it over now to Delicious for her remarks.
Hello, everyone. Can people see and hear me? Yes, okay. My name is Deirdre
No,
Delicious.
I can't see you. Courage is saying, no, I can't see you, Delicious.
Have I been pinned? My video is, oh, one moment. Technical difficulties on my end, I apologize. Yes, my name is Deirdre Delicious Walton. I take the pronouns she and her. I have been a community activist, artist, and EDI consultant for, about 15-ish years or so now. And I want to be a part of the board of Pride because I know that the organization has been struggling. And I think that we need a strong leadership at this particular point in time that is able to keep the organization and the community's history firmly in mind, and also that can bring good integritas nonprofit management to support the work of the organization and help smooth out and sort out some of the issues that we have been facing. And I believe that I'm, a good candidate to be able to support in that work. I've been around for a long time and I've seen a lot of changes happen with Pride. And so again, I think that one of the things that I really have to offer is that sense of community history. And I believe very strongly in that idea that we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been, and keeping our history in mind helps us helps avoid making those same mistakes in the future. So that's some of what I'm bringing to this work. And thanks everyone for listening to me, and the slate looks amazing, by the way, so enjoy. Happy voting.
Thank you, Delicious. I'll pass it now over to Elizabeth Bate for her remarks.
Hi, good evening. I hope everyone can see and hear me. My name is Elizabeth. My pronouns are she and her. I am a longtime queer Jewish member of the community, and I'm excited to be here and to be running for the board. It's been a long process, and I want to thank my fellow candidates and the board for having patience with the process, and for all of the members for having patience with it too. I know we're all frustrated by some of the events that have been happening and some of the issues that we're facing. And I think it's really important for us to have people on the board who want to face those issues head on. And I'm one of those people. I'm excited still to be a member of this board. And I'm really interested in finding a solution for what's been happening, and coming to a solution that makes people feel good about getting involved with Pride Toronto again. Just a little bit about my background. I have been in communications, fundraising, and journalism for 15 years. I'm currently a development specialist for the Green Party of Ontario. And I'm involved with all kinds of volunteer projects, including at my temple, Holy Blossom Temple, and for the Shore Center, which is formerly Planned Parenthood. I love being an activist in the community, and I can't wait to be elected and get started. And I welcome any questions that anyone has for me. Thank you very much.
So much, Elizabeth. I'm going to call on Mocha to speak, but I understand that she might not be available today. I don't see her in the list of attendees or panelists. Again, her bio is available on the member resources page, and she did participate in the Q&A session on January 20th as well. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to any questions. I know we have some time, not too much time, but some time. Any questions for the candidates? See one hand raised. I'll pass it over to Ian.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. I have two questions for the three candidates here today. The first question is, if you're elected, would you sign the non-NDA agreement? And second, in June 2021, the ED had an interview with Extra in which he said, and I quote, in regarding to police, and I quote, "That being said, yes, I welcome dialogue and conversation with the police because we have to work together. We look at
yourself on Zoom.
Harm reduction. We look at how we can work with the police to change the way that police treat to LGBTQ members of the community." So my question is, what is your take on the ED statement on dialogue and conversation and working together with the police? So I have two questions. I wish all of them can answer this question. Thank you.
Ian. I noticed the time. It is 6:51. I will ask before we get to Q&A, or sorry, before the candidates answer your questions, Ian, share the screen for a motion to extend to 7:30 p.m. This is a hard stop, as it will no longer be accessible after 7:30 p.m. This meeting will not be accessible after that time. So I'm going to share this motion now so folks can see the wording to extend the SGM held on April 26, 2022 by 30 minutes to 7:30 p.m. And I would ask for a mover and a seconder. Elizabeth moves. Sorry, I'm going to have to. Glenn seconds. It over to get Corey to set up the vote.
Sorry, Grant, can you just repeat that motion?
Sure. It's to extend the special general meeting held on April 26, 2022 by 30 minutes to 7:30 p.m.
And sorry, Grant, could you repeat the seconder?
So the seconder is Glenn Knight.
Okay, I have that motion ready, so I have now launched that vote for the approval to extend the special general meeting on April 26, 2022 by 30 minutes to 7:30 p.m. And votes are coming in quickly, thank you. There's just under a minute now to vote. Please ensure that you are voting on all matters. Okay, great. That vote is now closed. I'm just going to refresh to get results. Okay, I'm now going to share my screen. Okay, so the motion to extend the special meeting, there was 32 votes for yes and 19 votes for no.
2 in favor, 19 opposed. We will extend to 7:30. There are 2 questions on the floor from Ian. First about signing the NDA agreement, and second about comments made by the ED with respect to police in June 2021. So I will reverse order this time. I'll start with Elizabeth, Delicious, then Courage. Elizabeth, floor is yours.
Thank you. Ian, thank you for the questions. I'm going to start, I'm also going to reverse the order. I'm going to start with the police answer because I think that answer for me of the 2 questions is the simplest. I don't think that the police should have a presence in the parade as marchers, especially in uniform. I think that there's been too much trauma between our 2 communities, and I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to facilitate them participating again. And I think that it's going to be years that work takes place over. I also think that the membership has voted on this issue, and as a board member, it's my job to listen to the membership. And so I think that there's no going against what the membership would like to happen. That being said, we have to, Toronto laws provide that we have to have police for safety reasons, on-duty officers for safety reasons, not in the parade, not at the events, but just there as safety of the community. And communicating with them is important to make sure that the police don't, that no harm happens to any of our members, participants, people who come to participate in the festival or watch. And it's really important that we keep lines of communication open. In terms of the NDA, NDAs are a tricky thing. They don't only protect me, they protect the rest of the board and the people that we're dealing with. So, if I was dealing with a vendor and that vendor required that I sign an NDA, there's no way around it. So I can't say, yes, I will sign every NDA. I can't say, no, I will not sign every NDA. I need to be given a chance to read them first and understand what my obligations are to the organization. And I don't know if that answered your question, but I really hope it did. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'll pass it now over to Delicious.
Thank you. The first question about NDAs, I think I have a similar kind of position to what's just been said prior, which is that I think I can't make a blanket statement on that. I think it would have to be a situation by situation basis. I think it would be irresponsible of me to say, yes, I would sign NDAs, or no, I won't sign NDAs, but I don't know what they're pertaining to or what purpose they serve, specifically and in context. So sorry, but I can't answer a question that I don't know enough about to be able to provide an answer that is actually meaningful. With regards to this quote that thankfully someone posted in the chat so that I could read it in addition to hearing it, so I could grasp what was being said. I think that, so the question was, what is my opinion with respect to what the executive director said in this quote? I don't think that okay, so you might have noticed that I'm Black. At least I kind of hope you have. I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying we need to work with the police to change how the police treat LGBTQ members. That's what the quote is saying. I don't think that that's a problem to say that. As a Black person, I don't refuse to work with white people in order to try to dismantle racism. That's silly. To work with police to change how LGBTQ community is treated, I'm not even sure why anybody would object to that. The issue about police involvement in the parade itself has been made very, very clear. The membership has voted on this. It's already gone through the process several times. It's important to remember that we do live in a city with bylaws, and when there is any large festival or a street event happening, the city as a municipality sets police up to do barricades and change traffic around and so on and so forth. I mean, do you think we get to have Caribana without police presence? But are they dancing in the parade? Those two things are not the same thing. And the membership has already given its very clear instruction on police involvement in the parade, and that has been abided by the board in the past. And I believe, as this quote here says, it will continue to be abided by. But I think we need to separate out the issue of police involvement in the parade from City of Toronto deciding how it polices its streets when large-scale public events are happening in those streets. Thank you.
And I'll pass it now over to Courage to answer those two questions. Courage. Not seeing Courage coming on. Step away momentarily. So once she returns, I will follow up with her with the questions, but there are questions submitted in the chat. So I'll read those out for the other candidates to speak to, and then I will call on excuse me, Courage when she's back. Oh, there's Courage. Courage, there's two questions for you to answer. First, would you sign the non-disclosure agreement? And second, your opinion on police participation in the parade.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the police involvement in the Pride Parade. Now, there's a limited measure of how can we keep an entire crowd safe, and especially an event of this magnitude, to do crowd control and to do things like that. So it is a very delicate discussion. Of course, there has to be boundaries that are set in place so that the police are there for safety only, and that is the priority. Perhaps if they were unarmed, something like that. I don't feel safe around police. Some people do. I'm not one of them. I can't be the one that decides alone, but I am somebody who likes to work in a team, and I think that's a team decision. And I think regarding the NDA, it depends on of course, the boundaries and what's listed in it. But if that means that it keeps people safe or keeps information safe, then yes, I would be.
Courage. I'll read one question and then we'll return to a hand raised. Do any of the candidates have treasurer experience? So I'll start with Delicious this time, then go to Courage and then Elizabeth. So Delicious, over to you.
Yes. I was recently the treasurer of a nonprofit organization with a 50-year history here in the city of Toronto. And I, discharged my roles as the treasurer of the board with aplomb, if I may be so bold. And, the organization is salient and viable and continuing to have integritous management under the nonprofit rulings. So yes, I do. Thank you.
Delicious. Courage, over to you.
English is not my first language, and so therefore I don't have any experience with treasury role, but it's something that I would be willing to learn and take on as long as an interpreter was available to make sure that I'm understanding everything that's happening, and that there was some training that was available as well.
Response, Courage. And Elizabeth.
I don't have any experience specifically as a treasurer, but I have been on boards before in other roles. I also have some business experience. I have a business diploma from Sheridan, and I would like to think that I'm good with money. But yeah, again, like Courage, I'm willing to jump in with both feet and learn and grow with this role and hopefully do the best that I can with it.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'll now turn over to Tom Hooper with a hand raised to speak to the question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. For some reason, I can't see me, but oh, there I am. Okay. So I want to thank the candidates for your patience, and I appreciate that I may be somewhat responsible for the delay that you experienced, and I apologize for that, but I make no apologies for what I did in January and since then. And my question is related to that. Is there anything that you would have done differently over the last few months in terms of transparency in Pride Toronto? And on a related question to that, how do you think Pride Toronto should handle questions related to fraud and forgery against Indigenous artists and communities? Thank you.
Tom, I'll start with Delicious, then Elizabeth, then Courage.
Please forgive me. Can someone repeat the questions? Because I think I might have missed.
Tom, can you repeat your question, please?
Okay, well.
No, sorry, he's just joining again.
Okay, you got it in the chat? Okay. Good.
Yes, I got it in the chat. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, where's it gone? It's moved. Okay. So I work in the field of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And when there are accusations of malfeasance, harassment, discrimination, and so on, we have investigations. And then based on the findings of an independent investigator, then we, put together recommendations for resolution to address the harm that has been done and also to repair relationships. So, that's my professional experience. That's probably what I would suggest. How do I think that that Pride may have handled things differently over the last few months in terms of transparency? I'm not certain if this is referring to the audit and the report that were written. If it is, folks, please, I can't really speak to what has happened before I joined. Okay, I'm not a revisionist historian. I don't have a hot tub time machine to go back and see about what should have. I can tell you how I move. I can tell you how I've always moved. I can tell you how I've moved on the boards that I've sat on in this city. And I can tell you how I do things and what I can bring to the role in the future. But please forgive me, I'm just not really interested in what do you think we should have done. I can't go back there. So I can talk to you what we can do from here going forward, and that's all. So sorry, I'm just not a big reviser. We can't go back. Okay, so we can move forward from here, and I know what I bring to this role. I know what my integrity is and what my experience is, and I'm hoping that that's enough for y'all. And if it's not, then I'm sure there will be other willing people who can bring that for the organization and do what's needed.
Thank you, Delicious. Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for the questions. The chat is going really fast, so just give me a minute to scroll back here. Anything I would have done differently in terms of transparency? Partly I'm with Delicious on this. It's hard to be a revisionist, and hindsight is also 2020. So, it's both difficult for me to say what I would have done had I been in the shoes of the people that are on the board, who I know from personal experience are working very hard to try and keep a whole lot of juggling balls in the air with both this and with the special elections and with the festival itself. So, it's definitely really hard for me to say what I would have done differently. There was a question earlier in the Q&A, and I don't know if it's been answered. And I apologize. I guess I'm speaking out of turn to somebody else's question, but about criminality. If there's criminal findings, then for sure I would like to see the police get involved, and I would like to see all appropriate measures taken, as I'm sure others on the board would. I also I think there should be some kind of internal investigation. But as somebody pointed out in the chat, this is something that has occurred over several years, over several boards. And I think it's going to take a while. I think we're not going to get answers right away. And I think as long as we do our due diligence, I think that's really important. What is the second question. How do you think Pride Toronto should handle questions related to fraud and forgery? I mean, again, I think that's a complicated answer, but I've already spoken to, you know, if there was a crime committed, I think that person should be held responsible, or people should be held responsible for any criminality. And then I think we have to start the work of repairing the damage that's been done. And some of that will involve reparations. Some of that will involve long conversations. Some of that will involve putting in new processes in place that were clearly missed before. And I'm willing to do what I can to help with that. Thank you.
Elizabeth. Courage, over to you.
You know what, it was really difficult for me to see Tom's question in the chat to review it again and go back and forth with all of the chat. So I wasn't able to catch all of that. But from looking at the responses that I did see, I think I can answer some of it. We cannot fix what happened in the past. We can only set up things for the future. So I believe that Pride Toronto and the board, when working together, recognize the actions and what that it needs to happen in the future. If need, the police need to be involved, the building of trust and reparations. I know that we can do this to repair this for the future. I understand that there's a lot of hurt from the past, but I do believe that things can be resolved. For me, before this, there was no interpreter involved, so I was very unaware of what was happening. And then the issues with the voting and how long it's taken for people to be voted onto the board. I have felt very overwhelmed in this process. So I think that if we cannot deny what has happened in the past, but we have to understand that people are human beings and trying their best to repair what's happening. And we can learn from what has happened in the past, and we can try and do it better in the future, and we can make this system better, and so that it's accessible to all people and that this won't happen again. And for me, even an example of interpreters only being booked for a short period of time, those kinds of things, I think are things that can happen in the future, that can be different. And I'm not complaining about what's happened in the past, but I was unaware of a lot of the things that happened in the past. I think that we need to work together to make sure that these things don't happen again. And I think if we start this year and we start building a safe community, we can really get us together and working together and getting that camaraderie and that membership together the way that it used to be.
Thank you so much, Courage. We have reached time because we do need to set aside some time to vote. So I thank everyone for your engagement and your challenging questions of the candidates. Post the motion so folks can see the motion itself. So the motion is to approve the Board of Directors recommended slated candidates for election as Pride Toronto Board Directors. I will ask mover and seconder to raise your hand. I see Ian Royer moves and Ruth Noble seconds. Thank you. And I will ask to get quorum set up to vote.
Apologies, Grant. Ian says in the chat that he's not the mover on this motion.
Oh, sorry. So if folks can redo that. Ruth Noble moves and Glenn Knight seconds.
Okay, so I'm now going to put 2 minutes on the timer to approve the motion to elect the Board of Directors recommended slate of candidates. So if everyone could please go ahead to the meeting portal and cast your vote. So we have just about a minute left. Okay, just under 20 seconds. Okay, that vote is now closed. Just get ready to share my screen. Okay, the motion to elect the Board of Directors recommended slate of candidates has 35 votes yes and 19 votes no.
Sorry, I spoke over you. My apologies. With 35 in favor, 19 opposed, the motion passes, and Courage, Delicious, Elizabeth, and Mocha are elected to the Board of Directors. The final item of business is the adjournment motion. So I will just post that so folks can see the exact wording.
Do we have a mover and a seconder?
I'm just going to read it out first, and then I'll ask for movers and seconders. To adjourn the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022. And I will ask that mover and seconder raise your hand. I see Ruth Noble moves and Basil Lowe seconds. Stop the vote.
Okay, I've now made that vote live for the motion to adjourn the 2022 special general meeting held on April 26, 2022. I'll just take a moment to say thank you on behalf of Get Quorum to allow us to be a part of this meeting and on a successful election. Okay, just under 1 minute left for voting. just under 10 seconds. That vote is now closed. I'm just going to refresh to share the results. Okay, the motion to adjourn the 2022 special general meeting had 35 votes for yes and 7 votes for no.
35 in favor, 7 opposed. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone, and the board will be in touch with, as I announced earlier, next steps on a membership meeting with respect to the auditor. Thank you, everyone.